Well, I guess we're doing this. Like so many people from my generation, I grew up surrounded by Yu-Gi-Oh! I had my mom record it on the TV, I got tins on the holidays, and names like Yugi and Kaiba were playground celebrities. I truly loved Yu-Gi-Oh! And it was my introduction into card games that weren't just poker or bridge. But eventually, the people around me stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And found other hobbies like Magic the Gathering, which I ended up gravitating towards. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Always stuck in the back of my mind. It held this special place in my heart as where it all began. And I think how people get back into the game is different for everybody. But for me, it was that content loop that Raritan created of card gamer showing card gamer a card from a game that they've never played before. And in those videos, they talk about how unapproachable the game is now, how fast it's become, how it's like solitaire. So could I, someone who's been playing Magic for the majority of my life, get back into modern Yu-Gi-Oh? Is that a thing I could do? So like I said before, I'm not completely new. I did play in the ye old days, so I know what a normal summon is, a special summon is, and I even know what a synchro summon is. Remember when people were debating if this card was too strong? But at the same time, I think I have my work cut out for me. So real quick, I want to talk about being a new Master Duel player in general. This game absolutely showers you in gems. Open the game, here's 500 gems. Play the tutorial, here's another 1,000 gems. Every single solo gate that you finish as well provides another 200 gems. Every single SR that you craft has a free pack associated to it, as long as it's from this spreadsheet. And all of a sudden, on a fresh account, you have like $200 or more worth of gems and crafting material to go spend on whatever you want. Which I'll give credit to Konami for making it very free to play approachable in that regards, because these prices are crazy. So I've got my gems, I've played some solo mode, what's next? What deck do I build? In an eternal format like Yu-Gi-Oh, there's so many options you could go down. How could I possibly decide on what to pick? Okay, before we get the pitchforks, hear my logic out. I'm going into this knowing that it's a complicated game. I'm also going into this knowing that Master Duel is a competitive ladder. So I need every advantage that I can get. Secondly, it's not a combo deck. And I don't have to sit there and study combos like it's a chess opening that I've never seen before in my life. And finally, I'm a boomer, so fusion summoning's based. Sue me. So after watching a 9-minute YouTube guide on seeing how the deck is supposed to work, I just hopped right in. Now hopping in, doing rookie to the floor of platinum is pretty much a warm-up. Now I'm not saying this as a flex, like, oh, I'm too good for gold. But you literally cannot D-rank until platinum. You can play like an actual ape and just be clicking buttons, and as long as you win a game every once in a while, you'll rank up. It's this nice little rank that makes you feel good about your ego while still giving you some gems, while also allowing you to make some mistakes, which I definitely did not make. And while it's definitely true that the game is much, much faster than it used to be, it doesn't feel like solitaire. I've had plenty of back and forth games, even when I'm going second. And don't get me wrong, I definitely see how powerful going first is compared to going second, but it doesn't feel as helpless as everyone seems to make it sound. Now, during my climb, there's one other thing I noticed too that helped me out a little bit. You see, like I said before, Yu-Gi-Oh's an eternal format with thousands of decks that you could go up against. And there's no way to realistically read every card and figure out what each deck does to try to counter them. But what I've noticed is that most decks generally just fall into a subcategory where they all play the same flavor of the same thing. I'll give you some examples, and I'm going to make some Magic comparisons, so bear with me here. First is combo decks. Combo decks just want to put all of their cards into building as big of a board as possible and hoping that you can't break it. This is probably the furthest deck away from the Magic definition of a combo deck, where in Magic, combo decks are generally slower decks where they're building to a 2-card win button that instantly wins them the game on the spot. Next is mid-range decks, like the deck I'm playing. Mid-range decks try to be as efficient as possible without putting too many resources into their plays. They want to keep it simple, and they want to give their opponent as little points to interrupt them as possible. And I would say mid-range decks have a play pattern that is the closest approximation to Magic the Gathering. Next is going second decks, which I would equate to aggro decks. These are decks that are just looking to break your board and kill you with combat. It's sweet, it's simple, but there is a level of engagement because you have to interact with the opponent's board because you're always letting them go first. Next are control decks. These are also very low to the ground decks that are generally just filled with either trap cards or affectionately named hand traps to control the board and force a simplified game state. And then finally, there's stun, which is just stacks and an atrocity to God. What else can I say? So by trying to identify how my opponent's decks fell into these categories, I could kind of figure out what their win condition was trying to be, which did help me try to figure out how to interrupt these guys on my climb. And climb I did, because before I knew it, by learning the game through Dracotail, I made it to no longer are the ranks of Woolubot and Johnny Dark Magician trying to one-up me with his eternal soul. This is where I really had to learn the game. Now, one of the biggest differences between Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh, other than the mana thing, is the stack. So in Magic, we have the stack. You can target anything on the stack with a spell. You can add new spells to the stack mid-resolution. And hell, if you have enough quick effects, you can just play an entire turn in response to one of your opponent's effects. Yu-Gi-Oh, however, has something they call the chain. And the chain, while very similar to the stack, functions entirely differently. So let me explain. Say you wanted to negate a card with your Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. In order to negate that effect, your Ash Blossom needs to be directly after it in the chain. And for every effect similar to this, it works the exact same way. The chain is closed, so you can't negate effects that are down further on the chain than what was previously played. Another big difference is that once the chain starts to resolve, it fully resolves, uninterrupted. You have an on-summon or an on-death effect, well, you're waiting for the chain resolves before you can activate that bad boy. This creates a whole new form of interaction that I've never had to deal with as a Magic player, called chain blocking. You see, as the player, if you can get 2 cards to trigger simultaneously, then as the player, you can order which ones go where on the chain. So you can take an effect and put it lower on the chain to insulate it from your opponent's disruption. One other big difference is that since the chain has to fully resolve before things can activate, my guy Malulu here has to be used preemptively to a summon if I wanted to negate that summoned monster's effect. This is vastly different to Magic, where this would work, where I would be able to send my Malulu to the graveyard and then negate the card in response. And look, I get it. I know it's a skill issue. But as a Magic player, this was a really hard habit to get over because I've lost so many winnable games treating the chain like the stack. And Yu-Gi-Oh is definitely a game where a misplay costs you the whole game. And maybe it's just me being a little too Magic brains, but I think the hardest thing that a Magic player is going to have coming over to this game is learning the difference between the stack and the chain. But overall, I learned, I persevered, and I finally made it to Master Rank. So what do I think now that I've gotten here? To be honest, the two games aren't really comparable outside of the fact that they're both printed on cardboard. So I think I'm qualified to give my unprofessional opinions on what are the pros of this game. To start, it really is a fun and unique experience. I can see why so many people love this game. I know a lot of people have issues with the one-card starters, but I think they add a component to the game where it gives it that heart of the cards moment, where you draw it when you're on the back end of a bad situation, and it gets you out of a tight jam. That's kind of an experience that you don't get often in other card games. And also, I will say the theming of decks are excellent. If you look into the theme or the lore of any deck, their theme and lore is pretty well represented through gameplay, and I really appreciate that. Konami put a lot of work into making these decks' themes feel like they're doing what they would do within the context of Yu-Gi-Oh! So these next few are Master Duel specific, but I'm still going to count them. Just the fact that the client reminds you of triggers, the fact that the client reformats the text box to actually be readable, and it even highlights the text of the effects that's activating on the card. It really helped me in figuring out what effect was activating, where on the card it says it, and why it was activating in the first place. Also, shout out to the music team. They did not have to go that hard. Now, it might sound all like sunshine and rainbows, but I do have my gripes with this game. To start, the solo mode will teach you nothing about this game. The solo mode, great for free gems, will teach you absolutely nothing about what a real game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is actually like. I don't know how you fix that, considering how complicated the game is, and even the most competent solo mode deck will do dumb shit. Next, I think I got pretty lucky with Dracotail being the best deck when I decided to jump into the game. If it was a combo deck, for example, I don't think I would be as enticed to actually learn this game. See, the problem with a lot of combo decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that you need to study the spreadsheet before you play the game. Like, I don't know why Konami decided to make some decks so complicated that you can't figure out how to even use it without a spreadsheet telling you what to do. And I think some people even sell the spreadsheets online, which is fucking crazy. And finally, I want to talk about the lack of a mulligan. On an online ladder, I guess it's not that bad. I can just surrender and move on to the next game. But in a tournament setting, if you brick, Konami just expects you to play it out. That must be so frustrating if you're in a very crucial game in a tournament and you just brick and can't do anything about it. And I understand the necessity to not allow mulligans, especially partial mulligans. Oh my God. But there has to be some sort of way to at least try to balance that issue. I want to talk about the elephant in the room. I know every Yu-Gi-Oh player has been holding their breath, waiting patiently for me to talk about this one. And here he is. Look, I understand what Maxx C is supposed to be doing for the game, but when it's used like this, my soul leaves my body. Because the big thing with this game is that there is no mana. The cards are the resource. And yes, the going first player has the initiative to generate card advantage, so the going second player should have the option to generate card advantage in response. I don't think that's unfair. But when I watch my opponent do some big combo and I'm looking at my hand like, maybe I can break through, and then they throw Maxx C behind it, oh my God. Like, look, Yu-Gi-Oh players, I get it now. I used to be on CGB's side where Maxx C was not that bad. It's just drawing cards. But no, I really get it now, guys. It's not just drawing cards. It is so bad. But outside of these little gripes, I do think Yu-Gi-Oh is a great game. If you've ever thought about trying to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh and wanted a unique experience within the card game space, or you're just a dredge player, I couldn't recommend Yu-Gi-Oh enough to you. In fact, even while editing this, I decided to participate in the Duelist Cup. I didn't do well, but I was there. And to be honest, I think I will keep playing this game in my free time. Anyway, I'm George. I really appreciate you guys watching. Love you guys. Bye. So I'm doing this outro a bit unscripted. I just wanted to say, if you got this far, thank you so much for watching. This is my first YouTube video ever, and I'm not great at making YouTube videos, but I really tried my best here, and I had a lot of fun making it. If you guys have any recommendations on what you want me to yap about, or even just editing suggestions, like where I need to adjust audio or film, feel more than welcome to let me know. I'm going to take it all to heart. But yeah, I really appreciate it. If you guys like, subscribe, comment, any of that jazz, I'd be more than ecstatic. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.